I really like Mace Windu in the Legends novel Star Wars Shatterpoint, so upon seeing the release of Mace Windu The Glass Abyss, I was pretty interested in checking it out, especially since the novels of 2024 leaned heavily into the world of the Phantom Menace, the Living Force taking place before, and Glass Abyss taking place after. Also in canon, Mace Windu hasn't had nearly the amount of material we saw in Legends, where naturally Sam Jackson's major Jedi character was constantly shown across the comics world and a bit in the novels as well. Also, the years preceding and after the Phantom Menace is far less established in canon than it once was, so allowing for new angles on the characters and ideas to be interjected within the canon sounded interesting to me, so I thought I'd take a look at this one. Mace Windu The Glass Abyss is a canon novel written by Stephen Barnes, a novelist who previously wrote a Star Wars novel years earlier in The Kestis Deception, a novel he wrote in 2004 to tie in with the initial Clone Wars publishing line following Attack of the Clones, that novel starring Kit Fisto and Obi-Wan Kenobi. In 32 BBY, shortly after the Phantom Menace and the death of Qui-Gon Jinn, the Jedi are in mourning, including Mace Windu, who has a message arrive from Qui-Gon to complete a mission he was working on, should he pass away. Mace accepts and learns about the unstable and scarred beyond repair world of Metagos and its underground city, the Glass Abyss. Learning of the warlord Chulak, who is a disturbing mix of a Rodian and a Farakai, since Farakai can merge with other beings to become one. Chulak tricked Qui-Gon on his trip to Metagos and wounded the Jedi, causing him to flee with hopes to return, though he got caught up in the events of the Phantom Menace, so it never happened. Anyhow, Mace learns on this planet the Force isn't really a thing. Rather, they have the Web, which has its own group of followers who use rhythm to tap into the power. His contact on the planet is Kinshan, leader of the Sa'ad, who he becomes close with pretty quickly. He makes other friends such as the Maya series droids who are exceptionally capable at doing a lot of things. Mace goes undercover in Chulak's operation with the duo, who offers to have him merge into their shared body so they can become one incredibly powerful triple being. Though Mace soon realizes enough is enough and basically starts a rebellion against Chulak's army with another faction, the Worms, led by Sybil, an army of basically cloned sibling bugs fighting for control against Chulak, as Mace's side does guerrilla warfare to kind of try to thin the herd on each. Chulak kills Sybil, and the rebels are starting to be noticed, with one of Sybil's children taking control of the hive, though the insectoids become unraveled and many of them defect or become citizens after taking care of Chulak's forces. Eventually that happens, and Chulak is on the verge of defeat. Mace and Kinshan share a brief fling, as both have other duties and take off. Though before Mace departs, he must defeat Chulak, knowing that he could rally a new army and ruin Metagos' chance of rebuilding. Mace finds him on the planet's surface, and they play mind games since he can't really face Chulak head-on, eventually desynchronizing Chu and Locke, allowing Mace to gain the upper hand as the planet's sunrise, causing radiation to affect the duo and kill them both. Following Locke's death and Chu fleeing, Mace heads back to the Jedi Temple. Mace Windu is a Jedi in mourning after his friend Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn was killed, but the show must go on, and Qui-Gon sent him a message about the crisis on Metagos. Qui-Gon, figuring Mace would be perfect for the underground operation on the planet given his skill sets. Mace Windu is nihilistic after Qui-Gon's death, this novel taking place about a week after the Phantom Menace. He feels a weird mix of sadness and anger since the Sith returned and took out a bright light from the Jedi Order. Mace's character has a lot of issues in this book. For one, Mace starts falling in love with Kinshan, something that feels kind of out of character for him. Mace is one of the Jedi who follow the code to the letter. Though he does get a little more intense in combat, I don't really see him falling in love or growing attachments. It doesn't really feel like Mace. He feels very bound to his duty as a Jedi, when compared to, say, Anakin, who is so rash, or Obi-Wan, who is emotional, even Qui-Gon the rule breaker. Making any of them fall in love, sure, but Mace, I don't know. Mace also starts randomly questioning the Jedi taking him in as a kid. This idea kind of comes out of the blue. Mace complaining that he was given the choice as a 1-year-old, and that's kind of messed up, though Mace's doubt about the Jedi Order is all but dropped after a few brief chapters of him kind of pining over it. It's barely a footnote in the book, but it, also like the romance plot, feels like something that would be more fitting an arc for another character, again like an Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, or Anakin. An interesting thing we learn in this book is that Mace's parents were mauled by space bears, basically, which happens shortly after he's picked up by the Jedi. I got a bit more on Mace when we get to Chulak, but it ties more into their arc than his, so we'll come back to that. Mace is a weird mixed bag. I don't think I loved most of the directions they took him. The problem with Windu is that his morals are developed to a place where he has nowhere left to grow, so they just kind of make some stuff up. Shatterpoint, for example, another Windu novel, has lots of trials for Windu, including Teppa's corruption to the dark side, showing some of his weak points. Here, they didn't really know what to do, so they just kind of addressed the standard prequel-era weirdness of the Jedi Order. Weirdness I think Mace Windu often strictly upholds in other media. I don't think this was the book to really address those ideas. I don't understand. Oh, one more interesting quirk about Mace that isn't at all important, but explains away a small plot hole, is Mace's love of lightsabers. Mace in the comics and his first action figures have a blue lightsaber rather than a purple one. And while that isn't super important to canon, the Phantom Menace has lots of sabers that never pulled over, and there is reference to it here since Mace has actually made several lightsabers and has a collection. This was probably an unnecessary addition though, since we never actually see the blue lightsaber in the Phantom Menace, so it's not canon anymore. Also, the one Mace has in the Phantom Menace and Legends was a clan lightsaber, which was briefly a concept they considered but never really ran with substantially, with Plo Koon having the same lightsaber as did Luminara at the time. Kinshan is the love interest of this book. She runs a farming village in the Glass Abyss and is Mace Windu's tour guide and brief lover. She's the leader of a farm village, and her and Mace's brief romance is cut off since they both have different but important roles. Kinshan is the leader of her village and Mace is a Jedi Master. She's okay, but mostly an exposition dump and guide, so there was actually a story to tell. Her and her people practice the web, which is an alternate name for the Force, in a more rudimentary way. Followers of the web are basically Force hippies is the best way to describe them. Lots of these books like to do plots like this. They're always very interesting. I like learning of the Force from different cultural angles. This novel has a series of shape-shifting Maya droids, which on this planet are somewhat common. In this book, they are basically droids who do everything from yard work to sexual favors. No, I'm not kidding, they elaborated that. The fun thing about the Maya droids is they're kind of a clan. When one dies, they all get really sad. They're kind of a hive mind, which kind of connects over to Sybil and her insect children, which I guess is kind of cool. Sybil leads her many children as a leading gang in the Glass Abyss, eventually going to war with Chulak, though following her death, her kids join up with Mace, many of them joining in with Kinshan to become normal citizens. I like that Sybil's children fight and die, and that it's really a kill or be killed system with them, and this leads in part to them wanting to become more later on after their mother dies. Somewhat foreshadowing the clones in the Clone Wars, the Sybil kids are basically organic droids, but they wish to become more. Chulak is easily the most interesting new character in the book. Well, actually, it's two characters, really. Chew and Locke being two beings. Chew being a semi-symbiotic Firaki, a creature that can merge with other creatures to become one super being. Locke being a Rodian who joined up with Chew. When they merged, they worked under Sybil, though as time went on, they wanted to strike out on their own and eventually took over crime in the Abyss. Mace is wanted by Chew and Locke to merge into a thruple, or a polycule as the kids call it these days. They're nervous and courting him like a new partner, which is kind of fascinating. The idea being that Mace, being this grand disruptor, would make them the most powerful being on the planet, and it wouldn't even be close. Mace, for a while, feints consideration to get close to the duo since Qui-Gon warned him in his message that these guys were tough and also got the jump on him and defeated him in the past. In the end, Locke is killed. Chew's still attempting to fight Mace, but it's no good. This was an awesome scene. I think the descriptors of the sun kind of rising on everything as they fight was great, and seeing Chew lose half of himself and freaking out a bit was amazing. Chulak is a really strange character, or I guess set of characters, but they're pretty cool. Tonally, this book is a lot like Brian Daley's Han Solo novels, and if you're watching this and you've seen my other Star Wars books, you guys are probably thinking, I have to be stopped. I compare everything to the daily books, and it's true. They are the unsung heroes of the Star Wars novel series. Sue me for it. I didn't really notice this until the chroma wings started showing up, but then it clicked. Chroma wings were introduced by Brian Daley in the Han Solo and the Lost Legacy novel. Anyhow, beyond that, this is a weird adventure largely divorced from the larger Star Wars galaxy, with some Western influences, with our hero riding into this strange world, learning the culture and meeting the people and getting romantic with a female lead. It's very standalone and weird like the Daley novels. And to take it one step further, I noticed this book has a startlingly similar plot to the unofficial Hungarian Brian Daley Han Solo sequel, Han Solo's Nomads, a novel where Han Solo finds a group of underground cave-dwelling natives behind the times and fights a force hoping to oppose them, all while dating the leader. The plot is pretty much the same on its surface. Likely a giant coincidence unless Stephen Barnes really enjoyed foreign Star Wars bootlegs, like I do, to be fair, but it's especially funny since both were highly inspired by Brian Daley. Also, if you want to hear of Han Solo's semi-official Hungarian bootlegs, check out my Star Wars playlist linked at the end card. It's in there along with dozens of other videos I've done on Star Wars. Overall, I didn't really like this novel very much. Mace was weird and mischaracterized, the material feeling like shit another Jedi would have been more at home doing than Mace Windu, but even the concepts in the story feel like something I wouldn't have picked Mace Windu for. The book is occasionally dull, mostly as a result of Mace being kind of not that enthralling, and perhaps I didn't care for many of the arcs they came up with for him. Whenever the book talks about Chulak, I got Chulaked in. Oh god, I just said that. Nah, but I liked Chulak. He was very interesting. At one point in this book, we learn of random zombies, something that really plays into the climax and felt literally pointless. It didn't feel like the vibe at all to attempt to interject some horror late in the game, but they did attempt it. We have a really great Windu novel that really fits the character through the Legends book Star Wars Shatterpoint. And I don't think this book fits the character or hits the heights that book did. It just has a lot of undercooked stuff, a million great ideas, but not many that are actually properly paid off. Could be better.